Hello and welcome to my channel. Today we're looking into the disappearance of Stephen Pearsall, which is connected to a lot of other crimes apparently. So we're going to include those as well. And I'm not sure if I've done this before. It seems like I've covered it here and there. So we're going to look into this. And here's some photos of the people. I thought we would start out with that. And it talks about Snake River, Lewiston, Idaho, Asotin County. I don't know if I pronounced that right. Civic Theater. So, the murder of Kristin David, Kristina Nelson, Christina White, and so yeah, it seems like quite a, it seems like a possible serial killer might have killed them all, but his remains have not been found, and I'm betting there's a reason for that, but it talks about the Lewis Clark Valley serial killer, and it has it on Facebook. Brandy Miller, Kristina Nelson, 1982. So she was 19, and so you can see they were really young. She was the oldest of the two. It's very sad. It talks about Kristin David was found in black bags in the Snake River. She was last seen alive June 26, 1981. She was riding her bike from Moscow, Idaho on Highway 93, south to Lewiston, Idaho. So, and there's a sketch of somebody, but so we're going to see what the internet has to say about these things. It's very sad. And there's some more photos of the girls. So Stephen Pearsall went missing, and then these girls got murdered. So, and hopefully this pops up. And hopefully there's not too many ads so it doesn't go bleeping out my voice. But here's a sketch of someone. A forensic sketch of a suspected rapist was released Monday by the sheriff's office as law enforcement continued to investigate a sexual assault reported last week. So, a victim, a woman in her 30s, picked up the unknown man on State Route 129 near Swallows Nest Park after he flagged her down asking for a ride. He directed her to an area south of Asotin where she was reportedly raped at gunpoint. Nichols said the suspect was last seen on foot between Mulberry Beach and Cows Creek Road, and I'm not sure if that's related to those. But, yeah. For some reason I have that as well, because he's a really tall guy, at least 6 foot tall, 6'2". So, and then we go to the Charlie Project, and it talks about Christina Lee White, and you can see the web address in the upper left-hand corner as it loads. She was only 12 years old, and she was 5'4". So, she had a brand new white 10-speed bike, possibly a Schwinn brand, with a basket on the front and distinctive 3-inch wing nuts on the front wheels. Brown hair, hazel eyes. So her nickname was Chris or Chrissy. So she was last seen April 28th, 1979, during the county fair in Asotin, Washington, 2:30 p.m. She called her mother from her friend's house to say she was feeling sick from the heat. Her mother wasn't able to get to her because she didn't have access to a car and told her to put a wet towel on her neck and lie down and rest and to come home when she felt better. She didn't call again, and her mother assumed she'd recover and go back to the fair. Kristina was last seen at the 500 block at 2nd Street sometime between 7 and 10 p.m. when her mother went to pick her up. She wasn't there. Classmates said she had been on her way home when they saw her last. Weeks after her disappearance, her school papers were found scattered at a farm on the outskirts of Asotin. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. She was riding her white 10-speed bike at the time of her disappearance. It had a bicycle in the front and a distinctive 3-inch wing nuts on the front wheels, and possibly was a Schwinn brand. The bike was brand new, a present for her birthday 8 weeks before. It has never been located. She lived with her mother and stepfather at the time of her disappearance and attended a local Lutheran church. Her parents had divorced when she was a baby. She had several activities planned for the upcoming summer, 2 camping trips, baseball, and spending a month with her father. Authorities don't believe she left on her own accord. Authorities believe her disappearance may be connected to the 1982 disappearance of Stephen Pearsall and the murders of stepsisters Kristina Nelson, 21, and Jacqueline A. Brandy, 18, as well as the 1981 murder of Christin David, a University of Idaho student whose dismembered body was found in the Snake River 8 days after she vanished on a bike ride. Pearsall, Nelson, and Miller all disappeared from Lewiston, Idaho on the same night. The women were last seen walking to a grocery store, and Pearsall vanished from the Lewiston Civic Theater where he worked. Nelson and Miller's bodies were found in a canyon in Kendrick, Idaho in 1984. His remains have never been located, but he is believed to be a homicide victim. Authorities believe it's possible he witnessed the women's murder and was himself killed as a result. Investigators have a person of interest in all those cases, and it says a man who has never publicly been identified, but actually he has. He lived at the home where Kristina was just before she disappeared and was one of the last people to have known to have seen her. He was active at the Lewiston Civic Theater, and he admitted he worked at the theater that night. He has never been publicly identified, but he has, and he's been interviewed many times by the police. He maintains his innocence in the murders and the disappearances. But he has been named now because they put him, they did some, he's in some of the clippings on the internet, as well as they mention him in several places. So the Charlie Project, here's Stephen R. Pearsall. And there's photos of him, and he was 35 years old. He was 5'11" and 160 pounds. So, brown hair, brown eyes. Some agencies spell his name Pearsall by mistake, I guess. He may have used the last name Sahlim or Salim. He has a scar on his left calf and a scar on his left arm, and they believe that he was killed by the same person that killed them. He was last seen at the Lewiston Civic Theater, and several of them have ties to that theater in Lewiston, Idaho, on September 14, 1982. He was employed there. He was a janitor, it says, and he asked friends to drop him off so he could do laundry, and he wanted to practice his clarinet. He's never been heard from again. They didn't find the duffel bag of his laundry, but they did find his clarinet. So he's a former U.S. Air Force corporal. He left his clarinet behind, which is, they say, uncharacteristic because he wouldn't go anywhere without it. He didn't like, it was special to him. He's not just going to leave it behind. He also left his car parked at a friend's house and an uncashed paycheck at his apartment. So he never went back for his car or his paycheck. He went missing on the same night as Kristina Nelson and Jacqueline A. Brandy Miller. The two women were last seen in Nelson's apartment to go to the grocery store. Both women knew Pearsall and had a big brother type relationship with him. They lived only a few blocks from his apartment, and they would have passed the theater on their way to the store and on the way back. And they may have gone inside. Kristina Nelson had previously been a janitor at the theater, and when she quit, Pearsall replaced her. Nelson and Miller's bodies were found in a canyon in Kendrick, Idaho. Almost 2 years. It took 2 years before someone found their bodies. So, and they haven't found his body yet. So I guess they didn't put him with them. Their homicides remain unsolved. Photos of Nelson and Miller are posted with this case summary. Authorities believe it's possible that he witnessed their murders and was himself killed as a result. So they don't, Investigators believe he disappeared, and Nelson and Miller's murders are connected with the disappearance also of Christina White, who disappeared in 1979, and the murder of Kristin David, a University Idaho student who disappeared in 1981. And I can't remember if she worked at that theater as well, or that civic center. She was found murdered 8 days later. A photo of David is posted in the case summary. Investigators have a person of interest, and they say he's never been publicly identified, but he has. So, and this talks about the Lewis-Clark Valley murders. It refers to a cluster of unsolved murders and disappearances that occurred in Lewiston Clark's metro area. Law enforcement investigators have identified 4 victims and possibly a 5th that are connected to a single suspect. Christina Lee, Christy White, aged 12 years old, after attending a parade with a friend, she had returned to the friend's house and telephoned her mother saying she didn't feel good. Her mother advised her to come home, but she's never been seen since. Then there's Christin Noel David, 22. She was biking from Moscow, Idaho to Lewiston. Her dismembered remains were recovered July 4th that same year from the Snake River near Clarkston, Washington. Kristina Diane Nelson, 21, and her stepsister, Jacqueline A. Brandy Miller, 18, disappeared while walking from Nelson's apartment to a grocery store in downtown Lewiston, Idaho. On the same night, Stephen Pearsall, age 35, an employee of Lewiston Civic Theater near the city's downtown, went missing after going to the theater to use the laundry and to practice his clarinet. So it talks about they found their remains, but they haven't found his. And then it talks about different suspects. But in different series, see, they have it on Investigation Discovery, and I believe they mentioned the person's name on there, but they've mentioned it in several places that I've seen so far. And this is Facebook posts, they have it, and they also have Reddit, I believe, have it as well. It says Kristin David worked the graveyard shift at Circle K and also was a waitress at the Capricorn Bar in 1981 in Moscow, Idaho. Voss, that's the person, worked as a delivery driver for Frito-Lay, and his route took him to Moscow, Idaho. If you should have any memories of Kristin David or Lance Voss, please share them through private message on this page. But I would contact the authorities and let them know, because I believe he's a person of interest and I believe they need more information. So maybe you have information, and maybe that's the information that they need, whether it's about him or her, any of these cases, whether you feel it's significant or maybe you think it's insignificant. If everybody contacted them with things like that, then that might be the missing piece to the puzzle that they need to find their evidence. You never know what kind of information they're going to gather from that, be it a time or a location or something they need to put in their paperwork, or somebody else that might be a witness that they could talk to from the information that you gave them. So, and then I Google searched it, and it talks about Kristin David, university senior, and her bicycle. So you can find there's a lot of information on the internet. So, and it's very sad. It's very sad. And I can't remember if the girl that was biking worked at that theater or not too, or if she was somehow connecting it, but Wow. That's very sad. That's a lot of people. And there should be another one. Yeah, 17-year-old girl. Antoinette Anino. June 5th, 1972, the body of 17-year-old Antoinette Anino lay in the Willow Glen mortuary. On the same night, Lance Voss was lurking outside of the mortuary, trying to break in. He had a camera. Why would he want to take a camera? A 10 to 12-inch knife. That's a long knife. And a flashlight. He was arrested, charged, and convicted of, I don't think he was convicted of killing her. And I'm not sure exactly what happened to her, but he's trying to break in to take a picture, and he's got a knife. So I don't know what. I'm wondering if he doesn't have something somewhere, if he's not keeping photos somewhere, if he didn't take photos somewhere and keep the photos, if that's why he's not carrying a camera. And these, if he's the killer, or whoever the killer is, and these are the ones tied to it, I just wonder how many more are there? How many more victims do you think there are? Do you think these are the only victims? Or do you think these are the only victims that can be tied to this person? Because allegedly all of these victims can be tied to that one person. Does that look like him? I don't know where his picture went. There's his picture there. I don't know. They said he was creepy. Oh, I think it does look like him. That one. That one. It does, doesn't it? Except for the facial hair, maybe. I don't know. I don't have any idea. So apparently they don't have enough evidence to convict him or anyone else. So, and because they haven't found the body of Stephen Pearsall, I guess they're not charging him till, because they can't rule him out. But, you know, he's never been seen again. So to me, that would be enough to think he was dead, and they should go about ruling him dead. And then after he's been ruled dead, then they can say, oh, look. Because with everything going on now, how's he... I just can't see him being alive. And I think he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I don't know if the girls walked in and something was happening to him, or if he walked in and something was happening to the girls. You know, it's just really sad. And that other guy that, I guess he worked at that theater that night, because they've mentioned his name in several places. Like, he was tied to all of these. Like, he was working and he was at the theater that night, and then he was somehow tied to this girl. I don't know how, but if you go watch the they have some investigative reports. Investigative Discovery, I think, has it, and talks about how he's connected to all of these. So because he's connected to every single one of these people, or almost all of these people, they think that he might be the person that did it. So if you have, like I said, if you have any information about him, you've ever met him or known him, run across him, anything, you know, areas that he's been, or if you have information about these other people or anything like that, you should contact the FBI, try to get a hold of somebody, maybe email them, email a couple people in case the one person doesn't get it, and let them know. Let them know what information that you have, because I think the FBI is being involved in the case now, or the cases. But here's the sheriff's office for her case, and they have different phone numbers, so you can contact whichever one you want to, but I would contact a couple of them and let them know if you have any information to make sure that the proper authorities get the information that you have so that they can try to close at least one of these cases or some of them. Anyway, don't forget to pray for the family members of these people who have lost their loved ones and have suffered so much, because this is so sad, and I just feel terrible for their families. You know, when you lose someone and they're murdered, it's pretty horrific. So, you know, if you know something, maybe you can help close one of these cases. Anyway, I wouldn't just sit on the information and hold on to it and do nothing. And thank you so much for tuning into my channel. Have a great day. Bye-bye.